So we've seen the transformation of Seth Rollins, the Monday Night Messiah, over the last several months. How did the transformation all come about? And for this character, did you take maybe a look at famous cult leaders like David Koresh or Jim Jones or Charles Manson? Or what was your inspiration in getting the character going?
Honestly, the motivation for the character was internal to begin with. It never really was something that I thought of as far as looking to outside sources for, models. As far as the gentlemen you mentioned, they've all had some moderate success in building their own following based on the way they have talked to people and stuff like that. For me, it was really just an internal motivation looking at all the things that had happened to my character over, really the course of my career here in WWE, but particularly the last, maybe the last year or so, going from someone who had worked so hard to garner the fan supports only to have them, turn their back on me inexplicably, really. It grew a bit of resentment from me internally, and I just kind of used that as motivation to project this facet of my character, a lot of it since the beginning of the year, and I think especially within the last couple of months, and you've seen since WrestleMania and since we've been going to these Raws at the Performance Center, you're getting a much better a much better indication of what a character can look like in pro wrestling in this era.
Yeah, so in my opinion, your match with Kevin Owens was one of the best things about this year's WrestleMania. You did point out your Performance Center history you had with Kevin that helped in the build-up, and the match itself told a great story. So besides the outcome, how happy are you with your WrestleMania performance this year, especially under these special circumstances?
Well, you never not like to lose at WrestleMania. It's the biggest night of the year in our industry. We had a lot of eyes on the show this year because it's special circumstances, and so to lose is never fun. But in an odd way, the circumstances moving, the event from Raymond James Stadium to the Performance Center added a lot of extra layers to Kevin and I's story. And it made for a different kind of challenge having a match of that magnitude in front of nobody, with little energy. And so I had watched the previous editions of Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown and really looked at what we were doing from an in-ring perspective and tried to adapt to this kind of setting that we're in now, to try to do things a little bit differently. And I thought Kevin and I were able to craft a good story and, captivate an audience watching at home, maybe in ways that we might not have been able to had the match been at an arena packed with fans. So it was certainly something that I would be proud of. Again, I hate taking the loss, but looking back, it'll certainly be one of those moments in my career that'll stand out.
I said the first for me, events are at closed doors since 2 months. How much it changed your life as a superstar in this few time?
Oh, I mean, my life has changed immensely within the last couple months, I'm sure. Everyone's has. I'm fortunate at this moment in time to, have a roof over my head. I've got a job that still employs me, and I've got, a nice small circle that I'm able to be around when I have the time. But yeah, this is a far cry from what I'm used to as a WWE superstar. As a WWE superstar, we're used to being on the road in different cities and meeting new people, seeing smiling faces all the time. That's just what we do. And so to not have that available to us is certainly a shock to the system. It's just something that, we're so used to a different lifestyle in this and used to, connecting with people, one-on-one and in large groups. And so it's certainly, like I said, a shock to the system, a different way to do what we've done our entire lives.
Thank you. The second for me is this kind of money in the bank fascinate your imagination. If you could be in this kind of money in the bank in the general quarters, you would be here, and maybe if you can think about one spot because you are an amazing and acrobatic athlete.
You know what? I will thank you very much, but I will say that I'm happy that I am in a WWE Championship match at Money in the Bank and not in the Money in the Bank match itself this year. I'm looking forward to being a viewer like all of you guys are, watching this spectacle where they climb an entire building, get to the top, and get these briefcases, these contracts. And so I have no idea how this is going to play out. I don't know what it's going to look like, and I'm very excited to see, based on the success of some of the different type of matches we had at WrestleMania with Firefly Funhouse and the Boneyard match. I can only assume that this Money in the Bank match is going to be, in that vein. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what the guys and girls, end up pulling out for this. And I'm glad that I'm not involved.
The last for me, Edge is back in WWE. Which kind of rivalry we could see in the future between you and him?
Yeah, I think Edge obviously proved that he can still do it at a very high level. Particularly the amount of emotion that he's able to bring to a story is something that is very special, and that not a lot of performers in our day and age are able to do. And so, you watched his build up to the match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania and the match itself and all of the little moments in there. I would certainly relish an opportunity to have a rivalry with Edge. I think there might be some unfinished business. He contributed to me getting eliminated at the Royal Rumble last year, and I may have made some threatening comments to him many years ago when I needed to get the authority reinstated back into Raw, the power of Raw.
I remember.
We'll see how things play out, but Edge is someone I'm certainly looking forward to getting in the ring with, hopefully at some point during his return. What's up?
I want to ask you, 6 years ago you won the Money in the Bank ladder match, and then you cashed in at the main event of WrestleMania 31, being one of the best moments in your entire career. And in today's, we got one more edition of this magnificent pay-per-view. And I want to ask you, what can you tell us about your victory at Money in the Bank 6 years ago, and which kind of memories of your career brings this to you?
Yeah, Money in the Bank is always a very special event on our calendar because it really signifies, in some ways, what the next year is going to look like. When the guys or girls grab the contract, it almost guarantees them a WWE championship. Obviously there are some exceptions, but for the most part, those who get the contract cash it in. And so I remember going into my Money in the Bank match, knowing that if I got the contract, what the future was going to look like for me at some point. And that was a pretty special feeling. And I think pulling the contract down and looking around and knowing that I held in my hand the future WWE Championship was pretty crazy, And so for a lot of these guys in these matches for the first time who've maybe never been WWE champion, it's really exciting. It's really something to look forward to. And it's really, this could be the biggest moment of your career up until this point. So it's a big event, and I don't think the importance is lost on us as talent.
as the Messiah of Monday Night Raw. You have set a religion on Raw with Murphy and Authors of Pain. Is there anybody that you are interested in that you want him or her to join your religion?
Oh, well, let's be careful what we call it here, but I do think that anybody who chooses to stand behind the Monday Night Messiah and asks me for help, wants to sit under my learning tree, is more than welcome. I don't necessarily have my eye on anybody in particular, as one person is not more valuable than the next. But if anybody were interested in coming aboard and asking me for help, I would be more than happy to take them into consideration based on their potential skill set. So whoever's out there and whoever needs a little guidance, I would be more than willing to look into it.
You have been in the ring with a lot of great superstars, from Roman Reigns to also Drew McIntyre, because you have faced Drew McIntyre several times in Monday Night Raw years ago. But I want to ask you about NXT. 2 weeks ago, that the opportunity to talk with Johnny Gargano, and he said that you are one of the greatest superstars of Raw, of the Raw brand, that he would like to face. What do you think about this?
I think Johnny Gargano was extremely talented, and I appreciate the kind words from him. Johnny's a guy that I've known for well over a decade now. He and I have had battles on the independent scene, years ago in his hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, and so we've had a couple tangos here and there. Hey. We had a couple, sorry about that, little dog barking. We had a couple of tangos here and there in the Royal Rumble this year. But, as far as getting into the ring and having a singles contest, it's been a long time, and we're both much different performers since the last time that happened many, many moons ago. And so I would have loved nothing more than to get in there with Johnny Gargano. He's extremely talented.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Seth, and good luck in Money in the Bank.
Thank you.
Just as a brief reminder, just so that we can get to as many people as possible, let's try and stick to one question and a brief follow-up if you need it. Thank you.
And we'll take our next question from Ricardo Garcia with Medio Tiempo.
No.
Hey, Seth, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, man. Thanks. WrestleMania 36 brought the cinematic wrestling matches to the eye of the WWE universe. We had the Undertaker match, the John Cena match. What are your thoughts on those kind of matches, and do you see yourself involved in that kind of stuff in the near future?
Well, I thought both matches at WrestleMania, the Boneyard and the Firefly Funhouse match, were extremely well done, thought out, executed. Performances were top level from everybody involved, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. I was surprised by both. I had no idea that either match was going to take on a life the way it did, and I think that in this new era of WWE, the way things are going and the way entertainment is working, it's something that WWE can offer that, maybe some other places can't. And so it's certainly something that I look forward to taking part in the future. But I do want to caution some hesitance as far as I hope that we don't get ahead of ourselves with these, and I hope that we don't, rely on them too much and sort of, make them the norm. I think that if we start doing that too often, then people will get tired of it. And, it's one of those things where, too much of a good thing cannot be such a good thing. And so that's my hope, is that we use them sparingly, and that, they are as effective as they have been when used surprisingly, like they were at WrestleMania.
Okay, and as you say, if it was on a special occasion and you had the chance to face either of those two legends, let's say Undertaker or John Cena, in that kind of match, which one would you choose?
I mean, the Boneyard match seemed pretty terrifying, but so did the Firefly Funhouse one. So, I don't know, man. I got to take on Undertaker. I've wrestled John a long time, many times over the years, Bray Wyatt as well. Undertaker's someone that I've never gone one-on-one with. So, I'd take a trip to the Boneyard. I think it'd be an interesting time.
Okay, Seth. Thank you so much. Take care. Be safe.
Thank you.
I'm very well, thank you. I want to talk to you about someone that you've been hanging around with a lot. He's from my hometown, from where I'm based at the moment, and that is, of course, Murphy, your disciple. In the time that you've been associated together, what's been he's sort of gone to a next level. How did you look at him, take him under your wing, and take him from someone that literally came from a small town in Australia to a guy that is there that's now a former tag team champion with you, and that's someone that's well in the main event picture? What was it about Murphy that made you sort of pick him as a disciple?
Well, the thing about Murphy is that he's got a lot of passion, for what we do. He always has. That has shown over the years in his outings for 205. And as Cruiserweight champion, I've seen him on Raw and on the live events, and I've seen the type of performance that he likes to go and put on every single night, no matter where we're at. And I think, with a little bit of guidance and a little bit of help up, he could get to this point where he's at now. I do believe that he has even more potential for the future with a bit more guidance and a bit more experience. He can reach even in further heights. But he's someone that I've always thought had a ton of potential, and just the right bit of guidance would lead him on his way.
It seems to be going pretty well for him. Let's turn to your match against Drew McIntyre this Sunday. Drew has impressed a lot of people, and going in for a WWE title match is normally a very big thing. But for a guy like you, you've literally done everything. You've won WWE titles, Universal titles, NXT titles, literally every accolade in the WWE, from winning Money in the Bank to winning Royal Rumbles, main eventing WrestleManias. You've done it all. How do you still have that hunger and that freshness to still go after a guy that's trying to make a name for himself, and would pretty much very keenly like to use you as a stepping stone? I mean, what's your thoughts going into this match, knowing that this is a first-time champion defending his title for the first time?
Oh, I think in some ways that is the challenge. It is almost more difficult to stay on top than it is to get to the top as far as a motivation standpoint is concerned. It's easy to set a goal to reach the top and to then work to try to get to that point. But once you're there, a lot of times, people become stagnant. They creatively kind of zone out. And I think it's difficult to stay motivated once you've achieved that goal, or in this case, goals that I have been able to achieve in my WWE career. But for me, the real challenge is trying to stay on top and stay fresh and stay interesting. And so, this match with Drew McIntyre, Money in the Bank, provides that opportunity to, bring the WWE Championship back to where I believe it belongs, and that's around the waist of the Monday Night Messiah. And I think that would be a nice kind of exclamation point to this character and where it could go from here.
Well, we've been finding your run as the Messiah incredibly entertaining. I want to thank you so much for letting me ask you a couple of questions, and just letting you know that Melbourne, Australia is a lot of coffee shops that we cannot wait for you to come back and sample next time you can.
Thank you so much. Melbourne is one of my favorite cities in the world, so hopefully we'll be back there sooner rather than later.
Thanks so much, Seth.
Hi, Seth. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Seth, even in your new heel gimmick, you created a great synergy with your WWE Universe. How much do you miss the crowd?
Yeah. We as performers certainly miss the crowd. It's a weird time in our industry, and we're trying to make the best of it all around, just like every other form of entertainment, or really anybody is in the entire world. Just trying to make the best of it, and for us, a crowd is sort of essential in what we do as far as being a participant in the show, and so to have that massive voice, be silent during our broadcasts, and not being able to have live events and all sorts of things like that. We're doing our best to try to find different avenues to make things entertaining and fun. But it's certainly not the same without a live crowd.
And the last one, did you expect a Universal title shot in this moment?
Did I expect to have a title shot?
Yeah, Universal Championship title shot in this moment.
Oh, sure. I certainly expect to have a title opportunity. I always expect to be either the champion or fighting for the championship one way or another. So my hope is to win the championship this Sunday at Money in the Bank, defeat Drew McIntyre, and send him on his way.
WWE, obviously. Sorry. Thank you for me.
Thank you.
We'll take our next question from Alex McCarthy with TalkSport.
Hey, Seth. How you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm delighted to hear it. I'm good, thank you. The first thing I wanted to lead off was, of course, you've got Drew McIntyre this Sunday, and this is his first run as champion in WWE. You might cast your mind back to your first run with the world title. I think you were working with the likes of Kane and Randy Orton, and obviously it's important, those first people you get to work with. Do you take a lot of pride? Obviously you want to win the title, but you take a lot of pride in this journey. You've seen Drew from the 3MB days to where he is now. So is it kind of cool for you to be in this position with him?
Yeah, it's definitely always cool to be on the other side of things, to get a different perspective. You look back at my first title run in 2015, you mentioned the type of talent that I was working with right out of the gate, Randy Orton, Kane, eventually John Cena. I learned a lot being in the ring with those guys. They saw my journey and what I had done to get to that point, and they were very helpful as far as taking me to the next level. And obviously I'd like to be the one to end Drew McIntyre's title reign Sunday, but at the end of the day, win or lose, he's going to learn a lot from his first title run, and from the experience he gets from working with, hopefully, people like myself who are able to bring out the best in him.
Well, talking about learning a lot, I wanted to touch on how the characters sort of evolved and changed towards the end of last year, and what the catalysts were behind that, because you could say, well, I guess what I'm asking is, would you say that Hell in a Cell was a real turning point for you, and maybe the powers that be, we'll call them, to go in a different direction? That night with yourself and Wyatt had some conflicting reactions to maybe what people expected. Was that when the wheels really got turning?
Yeah, probably. At the end of the day, there's no real nice way to put it, but I was dead in the water after Hell in a Cell. And a lot of that had nothing to do with it was nothing I could control. And, I was left out there as a bit of a scapegoat in that situation. And there was nothing I could do about it, but I was the one who had to face all the scrutiny. And no one really cared about me at that point in time. And so, or about how I was feeling, or about, what really went into, that moment and that night and everything that went along with it. No one cared about Seth Rollins and how, it affected me, or how involved I was in any way, shape, or form. And so, the writing was on the wall basically at that point. It was time to hunker down and make some changes, and some of those are tough lessons to learn, but that's what happened, and here we are. And there's no point in lamenting the past, and it's time to move on and move into the future and figure out what you're going to do about it. What can you control?
Well, for what it's worth, man, I'm really enjoying Seth Rollins going full Messiah, so working out well for me, man. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I have a couple of questions for you. The first question would be, the Messiah persona has definitely left its mark in WWE. How far do you want to expand this crusade? Are you considering going into the blue brand, SmackDown, and targeting a new mission over there?
Well, at the end of the day, this thing's just getting started, The last 6 months have been extremely successful. We've got Murphy, we've got AOP, and that's been gone very well for myself so far. Obviously a marquee match at WrestleMania, and now a WWE Championship match at Money in the Bank. I think, nobody's safe, so to speak. There's NXT out there, there's SmackDown on Fridays. Who knows how far my roots will dig. So we'll see as far as what the future looks like for Monday Night Messiah and my crew.
Great. Second and last question. Should we consider at some stage, or are you considering developing the persona even more in evil ways, like developing an evil church?
I don't know about all that, but certainly, like I said, we're just getting started here with this thing. I think there are a lot of legs to be had, a lot of ground to cover as the Monday Night Messiah. So we'll see what happens over the next year or two where this thing goes. Who knows? Who knows what time will hold? But I think that, like I said, there's a lot to be done and a lot to be said. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next steps are.
Hi, Seth. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good, yeah, not too bad, thank you. Obviously, we've got Money in the Bank this weekend, but we'll also be seeing the premiere of the Last Ride series on the network. And so I wanted to ask you, kind of, what has The Undertaker and also the man Mark Calloway meant to you as a performer throughout your WWE career so far?
Oh man, I mean, to be able to try to encapsulate what he's meant to all of us in one short sentence is going to be difficult. But at the end of the day, I've grown up watching The Undertaker since I was 6 years old, and so to see what he's become, to learn from him, not just watching him, but I've had the ability to actually be in the ring with him and share some really special moments with him for my career anyway. And so to be able to have that and just have conversations with him backstage and get a feel for how he does things is you can't help but be in awe at what he's been able to accomplish over the duration of his career. So he's obviously the first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a legend, and he's someone that you could argue goes on the Mount Rushmore of WWE.
Yeah, and this might be, another difficult one to kind of put into words, but what do you think is kind of the biggest lesson you've learned from either directly from him or just his career and knowing how he's gone about his job for his run?
I think one of the things that I've learned from him the most is not to be afraid of change. I think watching the evolution of his character, over the years and what he's done with it, different steps he's taken. He's a guy who's, had a successful formula, and it would have been very easy for him to just stick to the formula. But he changed it up throughout his career and tried different things and wasn't afraid to take chances and do things differently. And I think that, we get stuck in this holding pattern mentally sometimes where we're afraid to step out of our comfort zone. And so that can be, a tough place to be, but to watch him and see what he does with a character that everybody's so familiar with, take chances and still be successful, I think that that's something to really, admirable about him as a person.
Yes, again. Now I want to ask you, this week, Karen Cross and Scarlett made their amazing debut on the WWE Universe, and social media went mad. And I want to ask you, what's your opinion about this new NXT talent?
I've known Scarlett for a very long time. Carry On is someone that I'm slowly becoming familiar with. Scarlett is from Chicago. She, came up in the Chicago Indies. I was there before she was even training to be a wrestler. I remember just this annoying little girl that wouldn't go away at the shows in Chicago, and now to see what she's turned into, it's awesome, man. It's really inspiring to see someone, who maybe I didn't see so much potential in to begin with, get to this point in her career where, she's made it to the big time. I think Carry On's got all the potential in the world. Obviously, their entrance last night was something to behold, and I'm looking forward to seeing what becomes of that. You only get one shot to make that first impression, and they did it with flying colors, so we'll see what happens moving forward for them.
Last one, we know that Drew McIntyre's path to become WWE World Champion hasn't been easy, and is there something you have learned from McIntyre in spite of being your rival at Sunday Money in the Bank pay-per-view?
Oh, there's always something you can learn from the person you're going into the ring with. I think that's how you get to where I'm at, is that you pick up something from everybody you're with. One thing that Drew McIntyre is not lacking, and I think this is very important, is his confidence. I think, over the years, ironically enough, Drew McIntyre has self-admittedly been an insecure performer. Not so sure of himself at times. And I think if you look at the man he has become, and the things that he's been able to accomplish over the past couple of years, and he's in a position where when he goes out, when he walks out the curtain with the title on his shoulder, he knows that he is the man. He knows that he is champion. He knows he is the guy that everybody is gunning for. And so, I think being able to conduct yourself with that level of confidence is very important in being a champion. So Drew is someone that I can learn how to be that on that level with him and take that from him moving forward.